When we hear the word love, most people imagine connection, closeness, unity, and partnership. Yet what so many experience instead is resistance, silence, imbalance, and a painful kind of isolation. Not physical isolation, but emotional. You can be in the same room, the same bed, the same life as someone and still feel completely alone. And when you find yourself fighting alone for a relationship, holding it up on your back, chasing connection that isn't reciprocated, that's not love. That's self-neglect wearing love's mask. One of the most dangerous patterns we fall into in relationships is believing that suffering is proof of loyalty, that holding on while the other person withdraws is a sign of strength. But when you fight alone, over time, the fight becomes internal. You stop trying to fix the relationship and start trying to fix yourself. You start asking, what's wrong with me that they won't show up? What did I do to deserve this silence? That's where self-neglect begins. You stop advocating for your emotional needs. You stop expressing your truth. You silence yourself to avoid being too much. You minimize your pain to maintain the illusion of peace. And all the while, you're erasing yourself quietly, slowly, day by day. Love is supposed to feel like partnership. And partnership is a mutual commitment, two people showing up not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard. When things get uncomfortable, when needs become visible. But when one person consistently avoids those moments while the other keeps sacrificing, adjusting, tolerating, that's not compromise. That's emotional abandonment. And abandonment by someone who claims to love you doesn't just hurt, it distorts your reality. You start to think the bare minimum is enough. You start accepting breadcrumbs as a meal. A good day becomes one where they don't pull away. You start to normalize emotional starvation. This is where psychological education becomes essential. In any emotionally healthy relationship, there are key foundations: mutual respect, communication, emotional safety, and shared accountability. These aren't optional luxuries, they are core human needs. And when they're consistently missing, yet you're still staying, what you're practicing is not love, it's survival. It's codependency, it's people pleasing. It's the fear of abandonment running your relationship instead of truth, honesty, and care. One of the most deceptive lies we tell ourselves is, if I love them enough, they'll change. But love is not supposed to be persuasive. It's supposed to be shared. And the moment you have to convince someone to care, to stay, to show up, it's no longer love. It's effort wasted on someone emotionally unavailable. Someone who may enjoy the benefits of your presence, but avoids the responsibilities of your heart. The psychology behind this often traces back to attachment wounds. If you grew up feeling like love was something to be earned through behavior, perfection, silence, or self-sacrifice, then as an adult, you might unconsciously repeat that pattern. You may believe that if you just give more, tolerate more, wait longer, they'll eventually give you what you need. But healthy love doesn't require you to shrink yourself. It doesn't demand your silence. It doesn't punish you for feeling, for needing, for asking. In fact, love that punishes you for needing more is not love at all. It's emotional control. The tragedy is that many people stay in relationships where they are emotionally invisible because the fear of being alone is louder than the discomfort of being neglected. But let's be clear, being alone is not the same as being abandoned in a relationship. In fact, there's a deeper kind of loneliness that comes when you're next to someone who has emotionally checked out. That kind of loneliness makes you question your value. It makes you overthink every word. It makes you doubt your intuition, even when everything inside you is screaming that something's not right. But the truth is, your body knows. Your mind might argue, your heart might hope, but your nervous system, it knows. It feels the absence, it registers the lack of safety, it reacts to their inconsistency. That's why you feel anxious. That's why you're exhausted. That's why you're starting to feel like you're not yourself anymore. When you're the only one fighting, you start performing. You become the planner, the forgiver, the peacemaker, the emotional caretaker. You take responsibility for every argument. You become hyper, aware of their moods and under-aware of your own needs. You keep adjusting while they stay the same. And eventually, what breaks is not the relationship, it's you. You lose the joy you once had. You lose the energy to speak up. You lose the motivation to dream bigger because you're stuck trying to fix something that isn't being fixed with you. This is what we mean when we say, fighting alone is not love, it's self-neglect. Self-neglect is more than just ignoring your needs. It's betraying your own emotional truth just to keep a connection alive. It's knowing you're unhappy and staying anyway. It's abandoning your peace to protect someone else's comfort. So how do we begin to unlearn this? It starts with emotional literacy, understanding that love without effort is empty. That connection without consistency is confusion. That silence in response to your vulnerability is not protection, it's avoidance. And you don't have to keep enduring just to prove that you're loving. The truth is, you can be loyal and still leave. You can love someone deeply and still walk away. Because sometimes the most radical act of self-love is choosing yourself in the presence of someone who keeps choosing distance. In emotionally mature relationships, both people understand that discomfort is not to be avoided, it's a doorway to growth. They lean into difficult conversations. They repair when things break. They don't weaponize silence. They don't ghost your emotions. They don't wait for you to collapse before they finally say something kind. If you're the only one fighting, it's time to ask, what part of me is still hoping that I'll be chosen? What story am I repeating that tells me I have to hurt to feel worthy? You are not here to earn your place in someone's life. You are not meant to prove your value through exhaustion. Love isn't something that should cost you your voice, your time, your spirit. Real love meets you, it sees you, it tries even when it's hard. And if you're the only one trying, then that's not love. That's a mirror, a reflection, a signal that you've stayed too long in a place that doesn't grow you. Fighting alone in a relationship will teach you how to survive. Yes, but it will also teach you how to disappear. And the more you disappear to make space for them, the harder it becomes to remember who you were before the fight began. But you can return to yourself. You can unlearn the belief that love and pain must always walk hand in hand. You can reclaim the parts of you that learned to stay silent just to keep the peace. You can honor the version of you who fought so hard and then teach her that she no longer has to, that it's not her job to carry everything. That mutual love doesn't need to be chased. It needs to be chosen every single day by both people. So if you find yourself fighting for love in silence, if you're exhausted from holding it all together, if you're waking up with hope and going to sleep with heartbreak, ask yourself, what if love wasn't supposed to feel like this? What if fighting alone isn't strength, but a sign that it's time to let go? Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from what no longer loves you back. Not to punish them, but to stop punishing yourself. You don't have to suffer to be seen. You don't have to hurt to be loved. You don't have to keep fighting alone just to say you didn't give up. You already gave your all. Now it's time to give that same love to yourself. There is a certain kind of emotional violence that happens when you're constantly showing up for someone who doesn't meet you halfway. It's not loud, it's not physical, but it leaves bruises on your mind, on your heart, on your spirit. When you're the only one fighting for a relationship, you're not just exhausting yourself, you're teaching yourself to accept emotional poverty as emotional intimacy. And that poverty feels like confusion. Why do I feel more alone in this relationship than I did when I was single? Why am I always the one apologizing even when I didn't do anything wrong? Why do I feel anxious when I'm around them, like I have to tiptoe just to keep the peace? Because deep down, you've become the entire support system. You're not in a relationship anymore, you're in an emotional labor camp. You're working overtime just to maintain what was once mutual. And no one is coming to rescue you from it, because the person you're trying to save is the one letting you drown. The most painful part, you remember how it used to be. The way they used to text back right away. The way they used to make you feel special. The way they used to listen, laugh, touch your hand and mean it. And now you sit in silence with someone who no longer looks at you the same, and you ask yourself, what happened to us? But what you're really asking is, what happened to them? Because you didn't change. You didn't stop caring. You didn't shut down. You didn't withdraw your love. And now you're fighting for two. The weight of one-sided love doesn't just make your heart heavy, it makes your soul tired. Tired of explaining yourself. Tired of trying to be enough. Tired of crying quietly in the shower so no one hears. Tired of being the strong one. Tired of wondering if you're crazy for noticing the change when they insist nothing's wrong. But here's what every therapist will tell you. When someone keeps saying nothing is wrong, while you're slowly unraveling inside, it is gaslighting even if it's unintentional. You are not too sensitive. You are not needy for needing clarity. You are not difficult for needing reassurance, effort, affection. You are human, and fighting alone forces you to abandon your humanity. It teaches you to be numb instead of expressive, quiet instead of brave, passive instead of powerful. You start to think your feelings are the problem. That if you could just feel less, want less, need less, maybe they'd love you again. Maybe they'd stay. Maybe things would go back to how they used to be. But that fantasy, that dream of return, is what keeps you locked in self-neglect. Because here's the brutal truth. No matter how much love you give, you cannot teach someone to meet you where they have no intention of going. And the longer you try, the more pieces of yourself you trade for silence. You were not created to beg for the basics. You were not born to chase someone who doesn't know how to show up. You were not meant to lose yourself in the name of saving something that's already emotionally gone. And this is where education must meet emotion. You can't love someone into being ready. You can't fix someone who doesn't admit they are broken. You can't pour life into a relationship built on one-sided endurance and the truth that hurts the most. You may never get an apology for the way they stopped loving you. You may never get the conversation that makes it make sense. You may never see the accountability that your pain so deeply deserved, but you can still choose to stop making pain your proof of loyalty. That's what fighting alone is. It's a declaration of self-neglect disguised as perseverance. You want to be admired for staying, for trying, for never giving up. But what about being admired for finally walking away, for saying, I deserve more than silence? For saying, I will no longer make excuses for your absence. For saying, I won't keep choosing someone who doesn't choose me because every time I do, I unchoose myself. Walking away from someone who won't fight with you isn't quitting. It's healing. It's not abandonment. It's self-rescue. It's not weakness. It's sacred courage. Because when you finally stop fighting for a relationship that's only breaking you, you begin the real battle. The one to reclaim the version of yourself that forgot how powerful you are without them. So when people say, just keep fighting for love, Remember this. Real love fights with you, not against you, and certainly not without you. Fighting alone may look noble to the world, but behind closed doors, it's eroding you. It's turning your heart into a battlefield when it was meant to be a sanctuary. And if they won't meet you, then go alone. Not to be lonely, but to be free. Not to give up on love, but to return to it in yourself first. Because the greatest kind of love, it doesn't demand self-sacrifice as proof. It doesn't require you to fight alone. It meets you, heals you, builds with you, and never makes you question if you're worthy of being loved in return.